So without further ado, you're here to find out how you can future-proof logistics and really engage your team in 2025. So Adam, welcome and thank you for joining us.
No problem.
So tell me about yourself, your journey. How have you ended up where you've ended up?
Right, so I'm the logistics director for Hovis. I've been with Hovis for just over 9 years now. But let's go right back to my start. So I left school at 15 years old. I'm 51 now. It's the best part of 36 years doing this. And I didn't get on at school, but Haley, school wasn't for me for many reasons. And I left school at 15 with lots of ambition to go and be a builder. And I was on the building sites at 15 years old. You couldn't do it now because of health and safety, but times were different back then. And I'd done electricians, I was a landscape gardener, done hod carrying, all sorts of stuff that you do when you're young and fit. And I ended up working in a Sainsbury's distribution centre in Charlton. My old dad, he was a transport manager, and he said, get yourself in here, and it was a job for life, essentially. And I started off loading lorries, working nights at 18 years old, which was tough. All your friends are going out Saturday night, and I'm going to work at 6 o'clock. And so I started off loading lorries, pushing roll cages on, and ended up in the produce department, picking up 2,000 bags of potatoes a night. So it was hard graft, and logistics is hard graft.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have any great education or any qualifications, my career with Sainsbury's was somewhat limited. So I left there about 8 years later as a transport supervisor. So I moved my way up to team leader, charge and supervisor. And then I went to work for a company called Hoya. They done the bulk sugar out of Thames Refinery for Tate and Lyle. And I was there for six months. And then I got approached by Carlsberg, the beer people.
Yep.
And I moved into their site in Docklands, which was a tough site full of East Londoners who wanted to do it their way. And that was a great grounding for me. It was really great education for large teams of people. We closed that site due to business needs, and I then moved up to Ipswich. And the difference between East London, Canning Town people and Ipswich people is huge. And again, that was really useful in terms of dealing with different types of people. We shut that site, then I moved on to Croydon, and I ran all the beer in London for Carlsberg.
Wow. Which
was brewing's a great industry, but it's a tough industry. So I went there. I left there after about 7 or 8 years. Ran a waste management operation, picking up liquid waste, which was a very, very slow, settled job. And I found that really difficult, going from the madness of the beer industry to getting 2 emails a day with 5 drivers just blew my mind, really. So from there, I went on to a company called Bidvest Logistics. I worked there. I spent some time with Musgrave, and then I got approached by Hovis.
Okay.
So my story, I never set out to be a logistics director. Never in my wildest dreams I think I'd be a logistics director. But you find your way in life, don't you? And here I am, sort of 36 years later.
And very much got a full view of what the logistics, manufacturing, food production industry is like from the ground up. It's great, really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, but having that view, what do you think the perception is nowadays of careers in logistics in comparison to what it was like when you first started out? You said you never had this intention of joining the industry. So is that still the same nowadays?
So yeah, I do some work in schools. I go and talk to school kids, and the first thing I say is, what is logistics? I get like 500 faces look at me absolutely blank, going, I have no idea what you're talking about. But essentially what I then say to them is logistics is we move stuff. We move stuff from A to B, B to C. That is essentially what we do. And I think our industry has got quite a bad reputation in terms of the younger generations. It's deemed as manual labour, hard work, long hours, low pay. And it's not a sexy job that the young people want to come and see. They don't want to come into it. And we need to work hard to change that, because I think the reality is very different.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, that's the perception. What's the reality like?
And I think you have to balance it. So when you come in at entry level, you come in as a warehouseman, a driver, it's hard work. You know, we can automate to a certain extent, but you are moving stuff. It is manual labour. It's a 7-day operation. In most operations, it's 7 days. But that's just a start. If you look at broadly into logistics, I think it's quite progressive. It's evolving every single day. Things are changing. You go back when I first started in transport, we used to have wax tachographs for the driver. Now it's digital, you know, and so the industry is evolving with the world around us. But there's a huge range of careers within logistics. It's not just lorry drivers and warehousemen. You know, our team, we've got stock controllers, we've got managers, we've got HR, we've got finance, you've got quality control, you've got people that fix the vehicles, we've got people that buy the vehicles.
Yeah.
And I think one of the opportunities is getting out there that logistics is not just lorries and warehouses.
Yeah.
There's lots of other stuff. I think our industry has evolved massively from when I was sort of just coming into it from a health and safety point of view, from a regulation point of view. I'm sure there are people on here. When I was younger, drivers used to throw their tacho out of the window. You can't do that. That's not what we do, and we would never endorse it. So the industry has professionalised massively, and I think we should really celebrate what we've done during COVID.
Yeah.
Certainly, I was in Hovis during COVID, really tough time, but logistics fed the nation. We actually kept the wheels moving. So there's a whole lot of stuff that we can celebrate within logistics, but the opportunity is getting young people and people who are thinking about career in logistics to get over it's 7 days, it's long hours, and it's hard graft. So you may start there, but you're part of something that is essential to UK PLC. We're absolutely essential.
So you're saying that you're doing supportive work there to get the younger generations into the logistics sector. And I've read plenty of research around the fact that the logistics workforce is nearing retirement now. So that brings up a problem of succession planning, obviously. So do you think the main challenges are there around succession planning, especially within logistics?
I think it's about selling our story. You know, I'll go back to what you said about that perception. We need to go out, we need to talk to school leavers, need to speak to people leaving university and give them a real life view of what logistics is. And almost sell it. So one of the big opportunities, but also challenge, is attracting new talent. How do we get new people to get over that misconception that it's warehouses all the time? Bring them in. So what is our reason? Why would you want to come and work within logistics? I think as an industry, we need to be quite bold in selling all the good stuff that we do, whilst tempering it with a realism. But when you come in as a 16, 17-year-old, like I was, you are going to have to get your hands dirty, and you are going to have to maybe work some shifts that are not 9 to 5, and you get 2 hours for lunch and go home early on Friday. Life's not like that.
Yeah.
But when you're that honest and you set the expectation, then you have to back it up with what is that career journey.
Yeah.
No, and I'm leaving proof that you can start at the very bottom. And if you've got the right attitude and you take your chances and you work really hard, the world's your oyster. So I think to answer your question, Hayley, that succession planning is about attracting the right talent via an honest message. But when you get them, when you get these young people or new people, it's what we do with them. What is their employee experience? What's their reason to stay rather than go and do something different? And
is that something that Hovis do? Do you have clear career pathways and career planning, career development opportunities within the business?
We do, but again, you have to balance it with a sense of realism. So not everybody that can come in can go and be a manager. But it's about them small steps. So when they come in, take a class 2 driver to a class 1. That's progression. If I look back over the last kind of 3 years, over 90 of our people we have developed. And we've had managers go from a team leader to an FLM. We've even had union stewards in some of our sites who have moved into managerial road safety roles. So I do think it's about getting them people, setting the expectation that whilst you're working hard today, and I've done it, I know what it's like to come in at 6 o'clock on a Friday. It's pretty rough. If you stick with it, then there is a journey and you can be the best version of yourself. But set a realism that it ain't going to happen tomorrow. you know, and it's about building up slowly, slowly, slowly until you get to a position where you can do essentially some of the good stuff that you want to do.
Yeah. I know recently we've been talking quite a lot at WorkBuzz about technology and how the new generations of workers that are coming into organisations nowadays are a lot more technologically minded than perhaps the older generations are. Do you think that that's going to play a bit more of a important role? Technology itself is going to play more of an important role within logistics going forward? And how are you already seeing it perhaps work?
Absolutely, and I'll go back to, we've now got digital tachographs. They've been in quite a few years. Our WMS systems are hugely advanced from when I first started. I used to pick on bits of paper with stickers. Now you've got voice, you've got finger scanning. So the technology is there, and that's evolving all the time. One thing I think with logistics is it's always moving. There's a lot more tech. You've got AI cameras in cabs. Our vehicles, you think about a fitter 30 years ago to a fitter today, it's a completely different skill set. You know, you still got your spanners, but you also got a computer that you plug it in and it tells you what's wrong with it. So this is all stuff that we need to attract the young people in, but also develop our existing people. So that journey, when we do our WorkBuzz surveys with you, you give a QR code to a 64-year-old fella who'll go, what's that? I don't know. And it's taking them through that journey. There'll always be heavy lifting within logistics. There always will be that. You always need people to load the lorries, to unload the lorries, and to pick, depending what kind of environment you're in. But that will, my belief is that will slowly start fading away. You'll always need it, but it will become less. So you look at automation, robotics, that's the way that I think the industry will go. But you'll always have a core set of people, and the skills will change. So rather than have a warehouseman lumping bags of potatoes, you'll have someone sitting in front of some computer screens controlling robots. Same industry, just a different kind of skill set. We need to reach out to them kind of people to say logistics is changing, and the people with IT, the younger generations, there is a home for you within logistics. It's not all about the hard yards and the manual labour. There's a lot more to it.
Now, interesting, you mentioned that, you know, you run your surveys with WorkBuzz. That's what you're here for as a client. Thank you. So what role do you see employee listening playing in shaping that culture within Hovis that supports maybe retention, longer careers, bringing in newer talent, that sort of thing?
I think it's absolutely essential. So I go back to when I was a warehouseman. I used to get hugely frustrated. And it's things like my truck's not working, or my pick face is empty. And no one would listen. And our frustrations become more and more and more. I think with an employee listening agenda, it's important that you understand people's reality. And that is about listening to their problems. Everything that we do within logistics is people related. And we need to close that gap between the managers and the decision makers to the people on the floor and work together. So firstly, identify the issue. I think secondly, own the problem, and then work towards a solution. So we do lots and lots of listening. We do lots and lots of talking. I'm a big advocate of being honest. No, I can't do that because it's a lot more powerful and a lot more beneficial than I'll get back to you. Because you never do get back to them, and then that frustration grows and grows and grows. So I think to address your question, listening is absolutely huge, and we do a lot of it because we are a people-orientated industry. We're a people-orientated business. But you can listen and you can not hear. And it's about what you do when people talk to you. That's a key thing, and that just builds trust. It builds transparency, and it builds that one team approach. So people do feel that they can open up and they can talk to you. They do feel that they're not going to be dismissed. And you haven't got to agree with everything they say. I always say to all of my team, justify why. Tell them why. Tell them they can't do it. They may not agree, but at least trying to make them understand why you're taking that certain position. I
think that's something that we always advocate here for here, at WorkBuzz, is that there is no point doing surveys if you have no intention of taking action off the back of it. And that's exactly what you've just said there. It's, you know, taking those things, and even if you can't action immediately or at all, it's acknowledging and explaining why you can't work with that at that time. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. So what does your team look like? Tell us a little bit about your team. How many people have you got working for you, and how old are your team? This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah,
like not down to individuals, but generally, what's the demographic?
If I look at the wider Hovis logistics, we've got about 1,100 people.
Okay.
Across kind of all of our sites. My immediate team, I've got a team of 10 people, and they're logistics managers. I've got a commercial manager. I've got an accountant, bits and pieces like that. So if I look at my team, the youngest person is probably 35, I'd have thought, something like that.
Okay.
Going up to the eldest person on my team is probably 60.
Okay.
And that gives us a really broad range. Because us old boys go to the younger generation and say, how do I make this work? What's that for? But they also come to us, the older generation, to say, well, can I talk this through? I've got a problem. So my immediate team is quite mixed. They're all what I call operators.
Yeah.
Most of my team have come from backgrounds like mine. Looking at my team, I don't think we've got 1 degree between us. But I'm okay with that, because they've got time served in the operation. And if they've done the job and they understand the challenges our people have, it makes them credible, and it gives them empathy to say, yep, I understand, because I've been there and I've shared the frustrations, I've shared the joys that you have, and also the bad times you have.
Yeah.
If I look at the wider team, I say our average age is probably across the driving population, probably mid-40s.
Okay.
I guess. Warehouse, I'd say, is a bit younger. Our drivers, once we get them in, they normally stay. So we've got drivers that have been here 40 years.
Yeah.
Like 72-year-olds that do 2 days a week. What I'm finding is that the driver crisis of probably 2.5 years ago is a lot better. But warehouse staff are getting harder and harder to find.
Okay.
To get a good warehouseman or warehouse person, so I say, who has got the right attitude, is becoming more and more challenging. And us as a business, we're looking at, okay, well, what do we do about that? How do I attract the Adams of tomorrow today? What's our compelling reason when we advertise for a warehouseman or warehouse lady or warehouse person to say, I want to do that job because? What is that because? And that's it's a challenge for us, and this isn't easy. We've still got a job to do, but we have to lay out a very clear path to say, if you start there, we can provide this for you.
Yeah.
Once you get over that first 2-3 years and you become established, then the avenues open up on what else can we give our people to develop our own talent.
So you, as a logistics director in your role, what have you done at Hovis to engage and support that team that you've just described to us?
Oh, you know what? I think it's a sum of the parts question, really. We've done lots and lots of stuff. So we have built a network over the past probably 6 years. And it's an I am what I am. You know, I'm not a polished individual, far from it. And I think creating a vision, I think that's really important. People like to feel part of something. They like to know where we're going and why we're going there.
Yeah.
So we've been very, very clear that this is what we want to do. This is our ambition. And this is our plan. Every year I go around the sites. I'm going around all the country next week to share our 2025 plan. So I think you have to give them a purpose. So this is what we're doing. I think your communication is absolutely essential. I'm not a great believer in corporate speak. I speak as I speak, because that's where I come from. We do lots of talking groups. I do listening groups around the sites. And we'll go there and we'll get a cup of tea, and there'll be no fancy slides, and we'll just talk. Yeah. And they'll say, well, why are we doing this and why are we doing that? And I'll tell them, and we'll have a discussion. So I think that's a big thing. I think having a really honest approach. I always use the term people over position. But there's nothing worse than people walk about saying, oh, I'm a manager and you'll do as I say, because we're all people at the end of the day, and that's what binds us together. We do different jobs with different responsibilities. I think when you get your team, so all of my LOMs, my logistics managers, all very much like me, we're operators. When you get that mindset, you can percolate that down to your people. We've done a lot of work on development. So we've done a lot of work on developing our frontline managers. Essentially, that's where your interaction comes from.
Yeah.
I can sit in my office and say, we're going to do this. If the lads on the floor are not doing it, it means absolutely nothing. So we do lots of surveys, we do lots of communication. I think it's just about having a shared vision, really, a shared vision, and being honest. I've never run from a problem, and I wouldn't advocate anybody running from a problem. So if we have got a challenge in one of the sites, we run towards it.
Yeah, as opposed to away.
Yeah, and I think our teams now, people respect that. We do a lot of education. So I'm big on education. I'm a firm believer, rightly or wrongly, that most people come to work to do a good job.
Yeah.
But when things go wrong, it's okay, well, why did it go wrong? What can we do? And sometimes you have to enforce and get the disciplinary stick out sometimes, but always say, well, what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? And I think when you create that culture with your people, that honest, transparent, we've got a plan, you're part of the bigger picture, you're part of the solution. But if you do get things wrong, we'll try and work with you. You kind of get a little bit of a momentum behind you. And we've established that over the past 6-7 years within Hovis Logistics.
Okay, thanks. Just a reminder for everybody who is listening, if you do have any questions for Adam, please do add those into the Q&A function that we have on here. But that leads me to the question of, what top tips do you have for other logistic leaders, or even HR leaders within logistics focused organisations, perhaps looking to build a more attractive work environment for their teams?
Yeah, so I think one thing I'd say, and go back over my career, logistics has sometimes been deemed as something that no one really understands, so we won't get involved. Logistics is a huge part of any business. It's your route to market. So one thing I say is make sure that your logistics teams have a voice within your wider business. I think it's about having a vision. Make sure that your logistics is part of the bigger plan, but also has its own plan. So when you share that vision, you get ownership, you get buy-in, and then you get momentum. And I think one of the big things, and it goes back to what we first said, is sell your logistics operation. Really go out there, look at the good things that you do, because we do fantastic things in logistics every single day. So Hovis will deliver best part of 10 million loads. When you go, wow, that's 10 million loads, a lot of people don't really realise that. So celebrate the win. I use the term sing when you win. Within business, we always focus on the bits that haven't gone so well, but we ignore the bits we do really well every single day. I think you have to get a balance on that, Hayley. You have to say, okay, we need to improve in this area, and there's lots of things that we can improve on, but look at all the good stuff that we do. When you get that balance right, then you kind of celebrate your successes as well as dwell on the things that haven't gone well. And I think one thing is never forget to invest in your people, because we put the work in today. You can retain your people, especially in this environment where it's hard to get good people, you'll reap the benefits down the line.
Yeah, brilliant. Some great tips there. We have had a question in from Becky, who would like to ask you, how do you get company news to those employees who aren't office based? So those drivers that you've spoken about, how do you ensure that they are paying attention and seeing the information that the organisation is sharing?
Yeah, so thanks for your question, Becky. So there's probably 2 or 3 answers. So we use many forms of communication. We have notice boards, we have TVs, screens, presentations. But one thing that we've started doing, and it's been really successful actually, is doing videos. So we're doing a campaign within Hovis now about low speed damage. And it costs about £2,500-3,000. It's not a huge investment. And we get some cameras, and I talk to camera very much like I'm doing today, and that's there forever. And the thing I like about videos is you get a consistent message across your whole network. We've got 7 sites, and if I speak to my 7 managers, but I Chinese whispers and say, we're going to say this, I know deep down that when it gets back to Glasgow or Avonmouth, it's probably a little bit different from what I want to do. So we use video communication. I try and keep them to 4 or 5 minutes long, so it's not too long, too boring. with that repeat message. That really works.
Okay. And how do your people access that video? Is it through email, or do you have it on an intranet?
We do briefings, so we do a lot of coffee mornings. Most of our lads come back about between kind of 11 and 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll get the urn and we'll have a cup of tea and we'll put it up on the screen. And it's just that's a really good way of engaging at their level, because they say, "What's that video?" And oh, that's that, and then you start them conversations. So videos, I think, are really, really powerful. We do a monthly update called Hovis Matters. I'll do a slide and the manufacturing director will do a slide, so we get a cross-functional message out every period. And I think that's the way. We also got handsets, so we use handsets so we can send messages. But I'm a great believer in the spoken word.
Right. Okay.
I can sit and write an email, or I can write a newsletter. Reality, how many people are going to read it? Probably not that many.
Yeah.
If I stand up in front of them every 3 months with a cup of tea and we talk like we're doing now, it's really powerful. It's really powerful.
And I guess from a diversity perspective as well, like that the spoken word can help with people who perhaps don't prefer the reading element, or
So I think the answer is, we use many types of communication. But we are moving more towards, if there's a key message that I want to get out about damage, about tachograph infringements, I'll just do a video. And we send it around the sites and I'll stick it up in the canteen. And people hear it from me, and I think it's good that they got access to me, because I'm just a person really that has to make a few decisions, and also get out and speak to lads. Get out whenever I'm on site. I put my boots on. We have a wander about, and you speak to as many as possible. We call it listening groups, and I'll sit there and I'll say my bits, my 2 or 3 points I want to stress, and then we open the floor up, a bit like we've done today. People say, well, I've heard this rumour and I've heard that rumour, and you get that face-to-face, one-to-one interaction. Really powerful.
Brilliant. Okay. If anybody else has any more questions here for Adam before we wrap up, then please do add them now. But I think that we need to say thank you very much to Adam for answering our questions today. I think it comes across how very passionate you are about the industry, about logistics, and about leading that new generation into the industry. So thank you so much for sharing that passion with us. So if there's no more questions for Adam, I will sign us off for now. Thank you very much for attending. If anybody's got any questions that have arisen from this and they want to reflect and come back afterwards, then please do send us a message at hello@workbuzz.com. And we look forward to welcoming you to another webinar in the future. Thank you once again, Adam.
Thank you.
And thanks everybody for joining us.